They tried to fence him out of his own ranch, but they never expected the one man they were messing with to buy the only piece of land that gave him total control over their gate. Marcus Bell walked out of his ranch one morning and froze. A giant chain-link fence had appeared overnight, blocking the only road connecting his ranch to the outside world. And slapped right in the center was a huge padlocked gate. Minutes later, the HOA president rolled up with her sunglasses, her clipboard, and that fake smile that hides real trouble. "Sorry," she said. "This is HOA land now. If you want access, it'll be a $2,000 yearly fee and a full compliance inspection of your property." Marcus wasn't part of their HOA. He'd lived their way before they ever existed. But they didn't care. They wanted control. What they didn't know was that Marcus wasn't about to back down. He went to the county records office, dug through old files, and discovered something insane. The road wasn't the HOA's. It wasn't the neighborhood's. It belonged to a tiny half-acre parcel that no one even remembered existed. And the owner? A retired man willing to sell it immediately. Marcus bought the land, got the deed, got the gate key, and at the next HOA meeting, he walked in, held up the key, and said, "This road belongs to me now." The HOA went silent. 1 month later, the entire fence was torn down by order of the county, and the man they tried to fence out now owned the only way in. For nearly 10 peaceful years, Marcus Bell had called his 12-acre ranch home. Sitting just beyond the edge of a rapidly growing suburban neighborhood, his land was quiet, open, and perfectly his. No HOA, no rules, no noise, just horses grazing, tools clinking in his workshop, and endless views of the sky. It was the life he'd worked hard to build. That's why the morning everything changed hit him like a slap. Marcus stepped outside with his favorite chip mug of coffee. The sun was barely rising. He stretched, ready to start feeding the horses, when something metallic glinted in the distance. He squinted, then froze. A fence. A huge fence. A brand-new chain-link wall wrapped around the entire edge of his driveway and the only access road that connected his ranch to the city. The fence stretched out like a silver snake, running from one end of his property line to the other. At its center stood a heavy metal gate, with a thick padlock hanging off it like a badge of authority. Marcus walked closer, heart pounding. He tugged on the lock, solid. The gate rattled but didn't budge. He wasn't fenced in. He was fenced out. Someone had blocked his only road, twisted his freedom into a cage, and done it quietly during the night. No warning, no notice, no permission. Who would do something like this? He muttered. As if summoned by the question, a jeep rolled up the road. Out stepped a woman in sunglasses big enough to block out the sun, a clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. She wore the kind of smile that pretended to be friendly, but felt sharp enough to cut. "Good morning," she chirped. "I'm Karen, president of the Meadow Creek Homeowners Association." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "This my land you're blocking." Karen's smile widened. "Actually, the road crosses HOA land now. We've installed a gated access system for residents only." "I'm not part of the HOA. I've been here since before it existed." She shrugged. "Not a problem. You can request access. There's a yearly gate fee of $2,000, plus a compliance review of your property to ensure you meet our standards." The slow burn in Marcus's chest turned into fire. They weren't fencing him out. They were trying to fence him in, into their rules, their fees, their control. And they had no idea they'd just picked a fight with the wrong man. The days that followed weren't just annoying, they were hostile. It was clear the HOA wasn't playing games. They wanted Marcus under their thumb, and they were ready to squeeze. The first sign was a bright orange note taped to his mailbox. "Property violates neighborhood standards. Remove unsightly structures." The unsightly structure was his workshop, a building that had stood there long before any HOA board member learned his name. The second sign hovered above his pasture. A buzzing drone flew low over his horses, circling repeatedly. When Marcus waved it away, it hovered higher but didn't leave. Someone was documenting his property. The third attack came in the form of an official complaint filed with the county, accusing him of maintaining hazardous and unattractive conditions. Marcus knew exactly who was behind every note, every drone, every complaint, Karen. He was being bullied. Bullied into paying their fees. Bullied into joining their association. Bullied into surrendering his independence. But Marcus wasn't the type to roll over. One afternoon, fed up and furious, he marched to the locked gate, where he found Karen and 2 HOA board members examining the fence. "You're blocking legal access to my property," Marcus said. "Move this gate, or give me the key." Karen tapped the padlock, like she was proud of it. "Only HOA members get keys. Rules are rules. You're standing on my access road. It's been mine for a decade." "You can file a request," she said sweetly. "The board will review it. Maybe. Maybe." Marcus stared into her sunglasses, seeing his own reflection, angry, worn down, but unbroken. "Then I'll fix this another way." She laughed. A short, dismissive snort. "Good luck." But she made one mistake. She didn't know Marcus was a man who did his research, who understood land, who understood the law, and who was about to uncover the crack in the HOA's armor they never thought anyone would find. Luck wasn't needed. Knowledge would win the war. The next morning, Marcus drove to the county recorder's office, a place filled with dusty maps, yellow deeds, and the weight of old paperwork. If the HOA had legally taken over the access road, there would be a record of it. He intended to find out. For hours, he sifted through plot maps, subdivision plans, and ownership transfers. The clerks helped where they could, but even they seemed confused as he pointed out inconsistencies. Finally, he found it. A small sliver of land, barely half an acre, sat between the Meadow Creek subdivision and his ranch driveway. A thin, strange parcel shaped almost like a crooked smile. It didn't belong to Meadow Creek, the HOA, or any developer. It belonged to a retired man named Thomas Briggs, who had moved out of state years earlier. Marcus checked the notes. The land had never been sold, never been developed, never been touched, and most importantly, the access road ran directly across it. Whoever owned that forgotten parcel owned the road, and whoever owned the road controlled the gate. Marcus's heart pounded. This was it, his opening. He found a phone number. The call rang twice before a tired but friendly voice answered. "Hello, Mr. Briggs? My name's Marcus Bell. I'm calling about your parcel near Meadow Creek. Is it still for sale?" Briggs chuckled. "That weird little strip of land? Yep. Been trying to sell it for years. No one ever wanted it." "I'll buy it." There was a brief pause. "Really? Well, sure. Make me an offer." 2 weeks later, the paperwork was signed. The deed was his, and along with the deed came a metal key, old, heavy, and attached to a faded tag that read, "Gate Lock A." Marcus held it in his hand and smiled for the first time in weeks. They'd fenced him out, but now, he owned the gate. News travels fast in neighborhoods with too much free time. By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, whispers had spread like wildfire. Someone had the key. Someone owned the road. Someone was about to shake the power structure. Karen stood at the front of the crowded clubhouse, trying to maintain her usual controlling presence. Her sunglasses were perched on her head this time, maybe to look more authoritative. "Whoever has the key," she announced, "must return it to the HOA immediately for proper regulation." The room hummed with tension. Then the door opened. Marcus walked in. Silence dropped like a stone. Every head turned. Karen's face paled. Marcus lifted the key and let it dangle from his finger. The room gasped. "You," Karen sputtered. "You're trespassing." Marcus stepped forward and placed a folder on the table in front of her. "This," he said, tapping it, "is the deed to the parcel your gate is sitting on. I now own the land, the road, and the access rights." Karen flipped through the papers. Her smile stretched, trembled, and broke. "That's no. You can't. That's impossible." "It's fully legal," Marcus said calmly. "And since your fence is on my parcel without permission, it's considered trespassing." A ripple of murmurs shook the room. Karen tried to regain control. "You can't just come in here and—" Marcus raised a hand. "I'm not here to fight. I'm offering an agreement. You can continue using the road if each household applies for access and pays a yearly fee." "What fee?" a man in the back asked nervously. Marcus smiled. $2,000. The exact fee they tried to force on him. Gasps. Murmurs. A woman whispered, "Is he allowed to do that?" Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. Power had shifted, and everyone in that room felt it. The weeks that followed were chaos, not for Marcus, but for the HOA. They panicked. They hired lawyers. They sent letters. They tried intimidation. But every attempt crumbled under the weight of county records. The law was clear, and Marcus had played their own game better than they ever expected. County officials conducted an inspection and confirmed. The road belonged to Marcus. The gate belonged to Marcus. The fence had been installed illegally. Meadow Creek had no authority over him. In fact, they were the ones breaking the law. In just 30 days, the HOA was ordered to remove the entire fence, gate and all, at their own expense. Trucks came in. Workers cut down the chain-link walls, and the metal gate was hauled away like the remains of a failed invasion. Karen was nowhere to be seen that day. Her clipboard, which had once been practically glued to her hand, had vanished from existence. The sunglasses that made her look untouchable disappeared too. She avoided Marcus entirely. But something else changed, something Marcus hadn't expected. Neighbors began driving by and waving. A few stopped to apologize, explaining they never agreed with the HOA's aggression, but felt powerless. Others admitted they'd been bullied too, fined for having basketball hoops, harassed for having mismatched curtains, or threatened over lawn ornaments. Marcus listened. He understood. He forgave. Because he wasn't interested in revenge. Not really. One afternoon, as he walked along his newly freed road, he encountered Karen standing awkwardly near the old gate post. She avoided his eyes. "So, what do you plan to do now? With the road?" Marcus looked at her, not with anger, but with clarity. "I don't want control," he said. "I just want respect." Karen said nothing. She didn't have any left to give. Marcus walked back toward his ranch as the sun dipped behind the hills. The road was open again. The air felt lighter. The silence felt peaceful, not tense. He'd won without becoming what they wanted him to be. And the best part? The people who tried to fence him out had accidentally handed him the power to hold the gate. In the end, Marcus didn't just reclaim his access. He reclaimed his dignity, his peace, and his place. And the man they tried to fence out? He now owned the way in, and no one could ever lock him out again. And that's how Marcus flipped the script on an HOA that thought they could bully him into obedience. Instead, he used the law, the records, and one smart decision to turn their entire plan upside down. If you love this story, hit like, drop a comment about what you'd do in Marcus's place, and subscribe for more unbelievable stories where the underdog wins in the most epic way possible. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.